the match for me.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow Podcast, proudly now sponsored by Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League Mini League. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free card, you will get a limited card to enter into your team too. We're also now giving away weekly prizes such as limited cards. So jump on, have a go, and see what it's all about. The very best of luck. And don't forget, the winner of the overall league gets a pair of Premier League tickets. Go ahead and join in the fun for absolutely free. On to FPL. And Rich, how are you? And what was your arrow? What colour was your arrow in Gameweek 30?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. I think it was, I think it was a small red, very small red, about 260 odd places, I think. So almost broke even, I think, on the week. It was a pretty frustrating week, but one where I think the strikers saved the day. I think I can describe that. I think it was all looking like it was going completely down the pan at about 4:30 on Saturday. I think, like most teams, didn't have any points from anyone at that stage. I mean, basically what had happened, I made some notes here. Bruno blanked, Rashford got injured, Chilwell got 0 points, Newcastle's clean sheet went in the first 5 minutes. Ivan Toney, who I sold, scored. I know he missed a penalty, but he scored anyway. Brighton players I owned and had played had goals disallowed. You know, everything was going wrong in the Saturday 3:00 kickoff. And then, you know, late in the game, Kane scores, still retained Kane. So he came through with goal and bonus. Watkins scored even later, I think like a 94th.
He did, yeah, it was really late.
Took his shirt off, but never mind. And then basically Haaland came in the evening game and saved the day for everyone that brought him in. So in the end, it was, you know, a grey arrow and not too much damage done. And on we roll. So I was pretty, you know, my team's pretty template at the moment. Don't need to run through it. It looks like pretty much everyone else's team. I'm struggling for differentials, but yeah, no damage done and, you know, treading water.
That Brighton Spurs game, I watched a replay of some of the highlights of the things that happened in that game. And even as a Spurs fan, I had to turn away. It was pretty shocking how everything just went their way in terms of the penalties. In terms of the potential penalties, Spurs should have had about like 6 yellow cards as well, disallowed goals, and everything else. It was unbelievable. I was actually in the cinema when it was on, watching Super Mario Brothers with my kids, and so all I saw was the result on my phone. I thought, Spurs, come on, they've done it! What a performance, brilliant! That was far from the story. That was far from the tale of the tape, wasn't it? But yeah, these things happen.
Brighton fans didn't make much of a fuss, did they? That was some of the other content this week talked about how little noise they made over some of the decisions, but they were pretty hard done by.
They were indeed. We also have the wonderful Jian Batra standing in for Adam today. Jian, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 30?
I'm good. It's good to be on. It was a fairly small red, about 10,000 places. Of all the reds this season, this one hurts the most though, because it was so close to being an unbelievably good score. A 20-point swing with Salah missing that penalty because I had him captain.
Oh, unbelievable.
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that one really hurt. The
massive.
rest of the team actually did really solid. Henry returned. Like I started Trippier, but I wanted Newcastle to blank, so that got done. I got a good amount of points from March, Watkins, but yeah, Salah being the big one and not having Haaland and going against him.
I went and bought a round of drinks after Salah missed that penalty, so that doesn't happen very often for me. So I was in the pub watching that. That was an amazing match, though, wasn't it? I mean,
what a fantastic
really
match it was, wasn't it? It was, yeah.
And yeah, that was a real swingometer moment, mate. You're right.
And with the Brighton lot, all of us could have had so many more points. Like you think about the goal in the first half, that was chalked off Mitoma goal, McAllister assist. You think about when Højbjerg stamped on Mitoma, that would have probably been Mitoma assist.
Mental.
McAllister goal. So yeah, it could have been a completely different week.
Like it could have indeed. And is Salah still on pens now, since he hasn't hit the target in the last two?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they'll give him one more.
He must be. I'm not sure who else would take it. Like there's no one really obvious.
Fabinho's got a really good record.
I just can't see him taking a penalty with Salah on the pitch. It's mad. I think when you've got these talismanic world class players with great previous records, imagine Fabinho missed and Salah just say with his hands on his hips. It could cost them the top four. I know it's not going to this year now, obviously, but I just can't see. I think I think he gets them still. FPL was easy for me this week. 66 points. I've no idea how. I've had a pretty decent week. Just having a look. I did bring in Bowen the week before for the double, and he got his assist again, which was nice. I benched McAllister over March, so I know that a lot of people benched March and played Matoma.
Henry's assist, did you as well?
Henry's on the bench actually for me, so easy game.
I'm looking at Jian's team still.
Yeah. But Haaland was the one, and you have moments in the season, don't you, where you have that moment of pure euphoria. And I think when Haaland scored that overhead kick, he was lying as soon as Grealish chipped it over, and he kind of jumped in the air. I jumped in the air at the same time, and as soon as he banged it in the bottom, I think I nearly volleyed my lampshade on the ceiling, sort of get in there sort of moment, which was absolutely incredible because I had him in other formats as well and stuff. So yeah, it was one of those moments of come on, a risky decision paying off like that is what fantasy football for me is all about. And it was risky, right? It's fair to say we didn't know who was going to play and stuff. So it was beautiful. It was just a shame he was brought off straight after when they won the penalty, but it is what it is. You'd have taken a brace all day. Not for you indeed. Welcome everyone in the chat. Amazing to have so many people in here. Aman24. It's been a while since I've been able to watch live. Wants to ask about Grealish. We will be touching on Grealish, I'm sure, in a bit. And just a dad posting stuff is in here nice and early. He's wondering about Chilwell to Trent, so we'll have a little chat about Chilwell because I think we've all got him, and I think we're all maybe contemplating not having him next week. Josh Hall is in. Jan is in. FPL Springbok says, can finally join one live. Great to have you with us, Springbok. Majd Shook is in, asks about Sancho. I'm not sure we'll be talking much about him, to be honest. Ron Esper says hello from San Francisco and what to do with Rashford. We'll definitely touch on that. Helga is in from Norway. Chef Trondheim in the building. Helga is from Tonsberg. I've probably butchered your name again then, Helga. Apologies. John Tyner in from Ireland. So many. FPL SWAT, FPL Finding Glory. Paul Jones, Chef AB, Big A, Jack B. Everyone is in this evening. Absolutely great to have you with us. So in terms of what we're going to talk about today, firstly, let's have a look at the lay of the land for the coming weeks. And Jan, I'd be interested actually in your kind of your overall thoughts for how, as fantasy managers, we look to approach the coming few weeks. Those, obviously those have certain chips. I don't have a free hit, for example. Some are still playing their wild cards, etc., etc. So what are your overall thoughts?
Well, look, there's so many different circumstances that certain managers will have. But if you take the three main ones being free hit, no free hit, and then those have the few that will have the wild card and the free hit, we'll start with probably the most popular one amongst the engaged managers being the ones that have the free hit. And there's kind of two routes to take. So you either go free hit 32 or free hit 34. And if you look at the fixtures, Game Week 34 is so similar to Game Week 37 that I just think there's it just makes your life so much easier to set yourself up nicely for Game Week 34. You'll therefore be set up for Game Week 37 and just free hit in 32. Because if you look at the assets you want in free hit 32, they're all good assets, but they're kind of hard to attain at the moment. You've got the likes of Robertson, Trent. You'll want that Liverpool triple up for Forest, right? And Salah for those who don't own, but they may be difficult to attain before 34. Then you look at the Arsenal lot, which is the real issue for me because they don't double after this, and their fixture run isn't particularly good, as good as they've been. And I'm sure they will score a good amount of points, right? But they've got Southampton at home in 32, so you'll want a triple up for that. It's a good opportunity if you go free hit 32 to kind of get off Newcastle assets because they've got Spurs. Not saying Spurs 100% score, but they've got Kane, so you never know. So, and Bournemouth have got West Ham. So it's a nice opportunity to attack, set your team up nicely for 34 and therefore for the rest of the season. If you don't have a free hit, I think it's significantly harder. And what I would probably look at doing is just making sure that you have decent coverage for 32, but you don't go all in on it, because those doubles down the line that you won't be able to get to, they'll probably hurt you. And if you have a wildcard, then you're just in a great spot, to be honest.
You are. In terms of wildcard, when would you look to play it if you had it left now, Jan?
You could probably go like free hit 32, wildcard 33. I think there's a lot of merit to that strategy. That seems quite nice. I wouldn't do it the other way around, because you'll get more utility out of like optimizing 34 and 37 as to just playing your wildcard to kind of confer with a blank.
A free hit now in 32 and wildcard in 33 just sounds like dreamland, right? Because you can just set yourself perfectly for the last 4 or 5 weeks. We know that teams that are fighting for something. We know the form players. You can get your price points in place. You can even change your formation 3-5-2 or whatever you want to do. So yeah, that's the dreamland there. Rich, what's your thinking? Are you kind of aligned with Jan on most, or?
Yeah, I am. I have the free hit and I will play it next week. I think the only thing that I'd say about the last few weeks is it makes FPL a bit dull, because we are those of us that have wildcarded in game week 26 or 27. You've been so baked into this strategy and the players that you logically have to get in each week. There always seems to be the same player that we're going after each week, and it's the same this week with the likes of Grealish and so on. That it just almost makes you question whether or not you want to take the formulaic transfer, or whether or not you should be doing something different, for the sake of pushing on, or the sake of doing your own thing. I think if you're chasing that can be really frustrating, because if people wanting to jump a rank tier, for instance, and really get in amongst it, it's hard to move when the whole herd is buying Haaland and the whole herd is buying Grealish, and you see what I mean? It's like really, really difficult, and we're still set into it. We're going to free hit 32, then everyone's going to get sell Kane, get Salah, and it's still going to carry on in that templatey type way, and I'm kind of not deviating from it because it makes sense, but it doesn't. You're not winning any originality points, if that makes sense.
I don't think so, but I would still, when we talk about if we look at the chips that have kind of already been used, even with the three of us, right? So 33% of us haven't got the free hit left. So I'm different from you. We were talking last week, the week before, that some may still look to optimize their free hit chip in 34 or 37. So I think you are talking primarily around kind of uber engaged managers. And I still think, if you do free hit in 32 and it pops off like as expected, I still think you're like half your rank. So I get it, 100%. and I do, but I still think, if you go Trent, Robertson, Salah, and when you like an Arsenal 3, because I can only afford to have 1 or 2, and it all goes as expected, I still think you'll jump massively.
Oh, definitely.
I think everyone will.
Next week will be a fun week, and there is a chance.
Fun for you.
Have a little bit of differentiation with picking a complete 11. So that's that. You don't have to be template, although obviously lots of people publishing free hit drafts over the next week, but you don't have to copy them. You can go your own way, and it's only for a week. So
I actually remember a week last year. The only game I remember from the blank was it was Spurs Leeds, and I think Spurs won like 4-0. And that blank game week, everyone used their free hit, and there were huge swings that week. So there were just small differences that people had because there were so many options, and it ended up being a very swingy week. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if this week's the same.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, it will. And already, we touched on this last week around, we've already started for those, we already started making transfers with these future weeks in mind as well. I think which is an important point. So I brought in Bowen, for example, in 29, was it? Because I didn't have the free hit. I nearly never brought Haaland in last week because of the free hit, and I bet you there are people didn't. So there are these tweaks and variations, because I wouldn't it's worked out well with me with Bowen so far. I would probably gone for Maddison, for example. So there are these variations where the chip strategy which you're playing forces you down certain paths and forces individuals down certain ones as well. But I get your point on Grealish, right? I've got to be honest. I'm not convinced on bringing Grealish in this week. We'll talk about kind of Rashford replacements next. Actually, well, we can talk about that now. Actually, I just got Jian's tweet on now, which has got some really good talking points for this week. If you don't follow Jian on Twitter, make sure you do. At FPL _ Jian Batra releases a thread every week, some superb information in there, and there's a couple of points on there which are worth talking about. And Rashford, obviously, so we had the news yesterday of Man United official statement. He's going to miss the next few games and hopes to be in for the run-in. Kind of, I'm paraphrasing there, but I would be incredibly surprised if Rashford is back playing 2 games in 3 days. Personally, in game week 34, I think Rashford, whether he's free hit or not, is a hard sell. I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts on what to do with that, and also who your replacements are. Rich, can I ask you first?
Yeah, interesting pick up on what you said there. You think he's a hard sell, whether you're free hit or not. I think he's an easier sell if you haven't got a free hit left to use. I mean, if you're obviously keeping your free hit for 34, then that'll work as well, because you can make a decision on the day. But if you're without one, it's an easy opportunity to get rid of a blanking player and go through 32 with a similar priced Arsenal asset or something like that. You can go a different direction on it, and we've got some options which you'll see are very different depending on what chips you've got left. But I'm still undecided, so I know there was some price swings. I think Grealish is up 0.2 already this week. Rashford's fallen 0.1, so the prices are fluctuating, and if you went early, you're probably a couple of points better off. But I'm still not decided what I'll do. I've got other options with my transfer, and if you are free to hit next week, you've got to make a transfer this week. You can't roll. So because I've got to make a transfer, the logical one is probably just to go with Grealish and hope he plays and so on. But I'm not 100% on it, and I definitely want the team news, and I definitely want a late decision. I could do with some more information on Luke Shaw's fitness. I could do with watching the United game tonight and making sure Bruno doesn't get injured. I mean, there's still games to be played, right? So I think going early was a little bit risky. And we may get another comment on Rashford before the weekend. So definitely make a late decision with all the information. But there's no way that I would say Grealish was essential in the same way that probably Haaland is essential. I think if you haven't got Haaland this week and you haven't got Haaland back yet, I would say that's more of a priority to get done for this weekend rather than look at Grealish. What do you think on that, Jian? You came in and out there.
Yeah,
sorry.
I agree with you in the sense that I don't think he's a hard sell. I would say if you don't have a free hit, yeah, it's an easier sell. But if you do, you can probably weigh out. Most squads have got a lot of depth, right? Because we're obviously just coming off bench boost 29. So a lot of us have 14, 15-man squads that are relatively strong all around, right? So you could quite easily put out an 11, which is somewhat strong, and have him on the bench for a week. And what it kind of allows you to do is, if you are free hit 32, then to get another whole set of information as to when he'll come back. Like, he posted himself a tweet under Man United's tweet, and it was essentially like he's in rehab, he's training hard, he's trying to come back. And with the first game,
but what else is he going to say, Jan? What else? What else is he going to say? It's like that thing from the Daily Mirror yesterday where they said, "Oh, we don't think he's going to play on Thursday," which means blah 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 nothing. Like, he's just going to be all, the kind of muscle emoji and the whole "I'll be back" and whatever else. I think all that to me means nothing. Like, he can't mentally overcome a groin injury just because he wants to. And even if he did, I'd be amazed if they then play him twice in 3 days. I just can't see it, because they're going to need him for potentially the FA Cup final, potentially Europa League final and stuff. They're not going to flog him. Sorry, I interrupted you there. It's just a personal thing about these tweets that people put. Anyway, go on.
All good. I mean, there's still 17 days till that first game in Game Week 34, so we'll get a batch of information, and that's kind of why I like, if you've got the free hit in 32, you could kind of sell Maddison.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And just play
I like that. If you've got Maddison and people are fed up with Maddison, he's only returned one assist in 6 matches or something. And
He's been awful. He's destroyed my wild card.
Got a free hit. Get rid of Maddison and wait and see, because in 2 weeks, as you say, if it's all promising, you've saved yourself a transfer. You've got yourself an extra doubler for 34, and there'll be, Twitter will be in gloat meltdown, won't it, for people that have kept
But
him.
to be fair, to those who don't have a free hit, I think, if you want to sell him for Grealish this week, maybe take a punt on like Elise, Gundogan, then I think that's fine. I think that's fair.
So for those who are free hitting this week, so we've got a graphic up now, Rich, with a few players that you fancy for a transfer this week. If you've got the free hit in 32, so obviously this means your team would then go straight over to 33. What are the players you're looking at, and what's your rationale?
Yeah, I mean, there could be a number of players that could have made this slide, but just wanted to put a sprinkling of the options on here. I've got Grealish we've talked about, and I'm sure we'll come back to him later in the show. But a lot of people are maybe getting a little bit worried about Ben Chilwell. Got sent off last night in the Champions League. Probably didn't impress his new manager too much with that, who was praising the other 10 players at the end of the game in the interview. A lot of people think that means Chilwell's probably the most nailed-on player to start for Chelsea this weekend, because he's banned from the follow-up against Madrid next week. I'm not so sure. I'm not sure whether or not he'll be on the bench again. He's definitely at a price point where he can be moved up, possibly in one move to Trent Alexander-Arnold, who you're getting in a Liverpool player there who has a nice fixture this weekend away at Leeds, and also has a very favourable double game week in game week 34. And do you really want to be messing about with the defence in game week 34 with free transfers? So the option there to maybe get Trent in now and have him there for game week 34 is there. So that's why he's made the slide. I put Lewis Dunk on there. I'm currently only sitting on 2 Brighton players. I haven't worried about it for this week or previous weeks, but I do need to get a third Brighton asset in. So if you do want to get a third Brighton asset in, raising some cash through downgrading Chilwell, or even maybe selling a player like Luke Shaw, who's an injury risk, or somebody who you're fed up with. A lot of people are sitting on Rico Henry. It's only 0.2 to go up to Dunk from him. So getting an absolute nailed on captain of Brighton. There's a few bits of content out there doubting whether Estupiñán's going to play all games now. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but maybe he's put in 1 or 2 iffy performances recently, and so Dunk is coming back into favour, having scored last week and so on. So Dunk's a good option at 4.7. Andreas is on there. He's popped up. We haven't heard him for a while. He's been in most of our teams for around 25 games of the season as the enabling 5th mid. He's now on pens with Mitrovic's ban having been confirmed. 4.3 million. Double game week in game week 34. He's really on there as an enabler. If you're looking to get to Salah, maybe you've got 2 free transfers, you're looking to generate some cash off the Rashford sale to make that jump with your, you can maybe go Bruno to Salah if you've got a few quid in the bank and get Andreas in. So there's options there, and he's really an enabler. He might be in quite a few wildcard squads who are trying to make the budget later on. And then we've got Alexander Isak at the front there, clearly showing some form for Newcastle. That's maybe a more long range transfer with the Newcastle's double in mind, but also Newcastle's form. I mean, they're playing so well. Most people have got 1, maybe 2 defenders. Adding a Newcastle attacker just for the run-in looks a sound move. And again, if you're looking to enable cash for Salah, or if you're looking to move off one of the strikers, coming down to Isak at 6.7 looks a nice move. Perhaps that might be a popular move in game week 34 when people come off Kane to get Salah in. But there's no reason why you can't bring that move forward a little. So there's a summary.
Really nice summary there, Rich. Jan, have you got your kind of eyes on anyone else as a free hitter in 32 who Rich hasn't mentioned
sure.
yet?
Just one thing, just to touch on what Rich said last. There is a way you can keep Kane without like getting Salah as well, and it's going 3-5-2. It's what I'm doing, and 434. And it's one of the reasons I don't like 3-34. I will have Haaland, Salah, Kane, and I will have Bruno Fernandes as well. I'll have all 4 of them, and it's still a relatively strong squad.
3.5 million.
Yeah. Wow.
And if you go 3-5-2, you don't even have to go to Greenwood. You can go to Solanke. And if you look at Solanke's fixture run, and he's the guy I wanted to talk about, it's really, really nice. And if he facilitates your 3-5-2, and he's got points in him. Like I owned him earlier in the season. He did really well for me. He's cheap. He's like 5.5 million. And look, Bournemouth obviously fighting to stay up, so they'll be really on it essentially. So he's one that I really like, and I think Rich just made some really good points in general. He talked about Chilwell, and I love going the move that goes up to Trent, because I think Trent from now to the end of the season acquires a lot of points. I think all the Liverpool assets do, to be honest, in general, but especially Trent and Salah. Whether Klopp persists playing this like inverted role for Trent that he did against Arsenal, I don't know, but regardless, I expect him to do well. I like the shout at Dunk because obviously you've got doubles coming up, and then maybe a couple of the Crystal Palace boys as well.
Yeah.
If you wanted a cheap enabling midfielder, you can go Elise, you can go Eze. I prefer Elise over Eze just because I think he's a better player. And then you can go Mark Gahey, but I would use an extra 0.1 to go for Anderson if you wanted a good fit for the back for the rest of the season. That's cheap because he's obviously got good aerial threat. And if you can get 1 haul and a couple clean sheets from now to the end of the season at 4.5 million, I think you're laughing.
Yeah. On Crystal Palace, boys, do you think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves with Roy only having had 2 games back, and obviously 2 wins, very impressive, almost got them safe already, and it's only 2 games, and just do we think it's a bit early, but to start bringing them in on free hits next week and that kind of stuff? I'm seeing a lot of drafts with Palace players in. What do you think?
Yeah, no, like I definitely understand your point. I think it's more so it was the manner of the win against Leeds. Before they scored that 3rd goal was a little bit rocky, but after they got their third, they were obviously on fire. I think in regards to the free hit next week, if I'm gonna get 1, I'll get 1, just given how it is, but I won't triple stack them. And I think in terms of the Palace assets, it's more so you don't have to go in on them too hard, but given their prices, they do enable it nicely. They're in good form. They've got good fixtures. So to go for 1 and max 2, I think you're fine.
I was looking at them earlier, looking at the minutes, and Olise, he surprised me actually. So he came on as a sub in game week 21, but other than that, he started every game and played a minimum of 84 minutes. Apart from in game week 26, they made loads of early subs for some reason, but Olise looks absolutely nailed in terms of minutes. Eze has played 90 the last 2 since Hodgson's been there, and Edouard has started the last 2 as the forward, though he is flagged at the moment, Edouard. But I definitely think it's one of those things. Again, in fantasy, we always, it's not about just looking for the players who've just scored the points, right? It's looking for like your points on Liverpool. Like it happened. I think it happened 2 seasons ago with Liverpool, where Liverpool were a mess. They didn't score a goal in 8 game weeks or something stupid like that. But then we all wildcarded them in 30 weeks to fixtures change, and they smashed the end of the season. And I can see it doing it again. I think those who get on these players quickly, who can spot these trends quickly, Robertson, Trent, and Salah, for example, for this week. If you're wildcarding even this week, just get them in sort of thing now in place, because they'll be incredibly popular in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And to Rich's point earlier around it being like a dull game, I do agree, but I also think it's because people don't take risks the week they should take the risk. And I think, just for example, Liverpool players, the Palace players we're talking about now, I know they haven't got the doubles, right? But if you're looking for ways of getting ahead, just look at these trends. Look at the Palace, look who's played 90 the last 2. They're playing incredibly well. And what will happen is they'll do it again, and then in game week 35, people will say, I think we should think about Crystal Palace now. Look at this last 4 game weeks worth of data. And it's pointless because everyone's doing it. So you've got to be brave with certain things. I think I'm looking at a Palace player now, I think, this week, because I'm not free hitting in 32, and obviously they play every week. Just into
one thing with that.
One
thing with Palace, just the last thing. And it's a negative factor to just kind of balance the argument. Players like Elise, Eze, in particular, as good as they are, and Elise, for example, is a really, really top talent. He's a top talent. He's never had a sustained period of like attacking returns, attacking output. And I will get on to Grealish later, I'm sure, in more depth. But even Grealish, I can appreciate that he's got 2 12-point returns back to back. And his output is improving as he improves in the City team. And he's been brilliant. But they've never really showcased over a consistent period of time their ability to return week in, week out. And neither of those players, Elise or Grealish, are goal scorers, really. But they haven't been in the past. So I think it's almost about, if you're going to get them in, no problem. Just managing expectations and realizing you're not bringing in a Salah.
Who are you thinking of, Jan? If not Grealish, because I'm kind of with you on Grealish. I look at the fixtures. Obviously Leicester this week is as good as it gets, which I think everyone is kind of really excited about it. I think they got is it Arsenal in 33 before they double in 34. So over that whole period, I may be not as excited as kind of everyone else. Obviously from 34 onwards, but in 34 onwards, things may have changed again. The dynamic of the game and Man City attack may have changed by then in 17 days or whatever else. But who would be your kind of number one Rashford replacement?
Yeah, it's weird because it probably would be Grealish, but I think we're in a slightly different type of climate where Grealish is probably the best replacement, but I just don't think you could be expecting as much from him as you kind of like from the assets in previous times. Like, look how much we expected of Maddison, right? In this sea of green, like regarding the fixtures, you can realistically expect loads of returns from him. I don't think you can expect that from Grealish, but I still think there's just not many options. I actually don't mind keeping Maddison, and I'll be playing him this week, and I'll be starting him in for a couple of weeks at least, because they've got a new manager, right? And we've seen many a time that the new manager bounce works. Now, whether it does, we'll see. But it's only a positive. Like, they were poor under Rodgers, right? City will always give you a chance. They will always give you a chance. They get buying a lot of chances, but Edison, Diaz, Stones, Ake, they were all brilliant, right? So I think Maddison with City this week and 2 fixtures coming up, I honestly think you could keep him. I really don't mind it.
I do.
But if not Grealish, then Gundogan, I don't mind either.
Yeah. Looking at some targets, if not free hitting in 32, obviously, again, because the dynamic is a little bit different. I'm in this boat. I've given it a bit of thought this week in terms of how I'm going to approach the next few weeks, because it's obviously very, very easy just to say, I need to cover game week 32 at all costs, right? I'll be up against loads of free hitters with really optimal teams. But I also think if I do concentrate too much on game week 32, it will take away the ability for me to properly look to optimize 34 and 37, which I think, to your point earlier, Jan, is the similar to, Brighton, Man City, Man United, etc. They're the players and teams I want to target for that, sort of longer term. So I need to find the balance between making sure I can sort of hold my own in 32, whilst coming out the back of it then with a team that can match the free hitters in 32 looking ahead as well, which is, it is a tough ask, but I think my overall assessment of it is I'm not just going to try and use all my transfers in 31 now and in 32 just to try and get out an extra player, get out 10 in 32 if it means butchering my team and putting myself in a bad spot ahead. I do think in terms of like Rashford, for example, I think it does make it easier for me to remove him, because like I say, I would be very surprised if he played both games in 34 regardless. Obviously, I have to hope on that a little bit as well.
He might get one off the bench or something.
Exactly.
But he's not necessarily going to start both games.
I'd be surprised if he's back personally. I just saw some in the chat, which I kind of lost. So apologies for whoever mentioned it. But there are a couple of players who've had a similar injury, and they were out for like 3 weeks. And if he's out for 3 weeks,
that's a really good point.
If he's out, if he's out for 3 weeks, it means he just misses 34. So I can always, I suppose the points I'm trying to make is I'm trying to look at this last group of 7 game weeks or 8 game weeks as like a group of fixtures with an overall points tally at the end, rather than making sure that I can smash 32 and then I'm struggling having to take like masses of hits then the 32 and 34 onwards. So, but in terms of targets you've mentioned, Riss, so we got Martinelli, who I I'm considering
Yeah.
bringing in, which completely contradicts the point I just made around kind of thinking long term.
No, it's not.
But
At all.
I do think Martinelli is in a fantastic pick long term,
Martinelli's
regardless.
a great
Absolutely
shout.
on fire.
I was caught up with the tidal wave of people that thought just because Leandro Trossard was going to get a few minutes, we now needed to all sell Martinelli and get Odegaard instead. Do you remember that?
He's an animal.
25 or something. Yeah, I mean, since then he's scored 6 goals, 4 assists, or something ridiculous.
He's been unreal.
He's a top scoring midfielder.
He is.
In that period. He's absolutely
so this is interesting.
And now Jesus is back, he's even better.
So it's interesting, again, because of the dynamic of the chips makes it so you guys feel like you can go for Grealish because you can free hit Martinelli in 32, for example. Whereby I'm going to go for Martinelli this week, and who's to say that Martinelli won't outscore Grealish in 31 for Israel? And I will then also have Martinelli going into 33 against Man City, which I don't think is a bad fixture for Martinelli.
Yeah.
So
I don't think there is a bad fixture for Martinelli.
With the same number of games, I would definitely rather have Martinelli than Grealish.
Same, 100%.
Definitely,
not even a question.
And absolutely, Grealish is very unlikely to start. How many games they got left? City 9. Do you think he's going to start 9 out of 9? Over that period, he probably is going to play the same amount of games.
Who only plays like at left wing? Who else plays there without Foden? Like, it's so difficult when he's been this good to drop him. Like even resting him for a game, because I literally don't know anyone else who could play there for them.
I think just on Grealish, Rich, he has played again a minimum of. He's played 90 minutes or nigh on 90 minutes in every game week since game week 20, apart from one game in game week 25 where he played 72 minutes, and then
that's reassuring.
Yeah, oh no, he's absolutely nailed, I think. But I do think it's interesting how I can now get Martinelli in 31 and 33, and you guys can't because of the chip strategy. So the point I'm trying to make is it's funny how the dynamic of the chips can change even the best. You know, we're all raving about Martinelli, but you guys are not going to have him for 31 and 33. But obviously, you're hoping to smash 32.
So, how many players are you aiming to have in 32? And then how many doublers do you have for 34?
I haven't got as far as 34 yet because I always get. What happens, Jan, and this is why I've stopped doing it, is I always get myself in a pickle in terms of trying to think too long term. And this is the point, right? If I'd have done that last week, because there was chat last week about not bringing in Haaland if you were not free hitting in 32, for example, and I think I made the point last week, you've got to take the points that are in front of you, because if you don't, it just kills you. I remember a season about 3 seasons ago where we all slept on Chelsea defenders because they blanked in 29 and they kept like 4 clean sheets on the trot, and we all slept on Iheanacho, who scored like 4 goals in 2 games or something, because again he blanked in 29, and I'm just determined not to do that. So I think at the moment, if I do the Martinelli move, I think I'll have it depends on not on Chilwell. I think I'll have like 9-ish without a hit, maybe 10 with a hit, but I'm not then scared to take hits. So I'm not scared on trying to maximize points in the short term to then almost buy hits to sort myself out a little bit later.
If you hit Salah in next week, you're doing it for 34 as well as 32, aren't you? For instance, so that pays for itself, kind of. If you know what I mean. So,
other targets you mentioned, Rich, Gabriel Jesus is a player we haven't talked about for a long time.
He's still something of a differential for people that bring him in. Looks like he's pretty much back in the starting lineup. I mean, yes, Nketiah could get a start, but I think he's going to be, the understudy for a while. And Jesus has certainly, hit the ground running, hit the ground scoring. So I think he'll be in a lot of free hits next week. Again, if you're looking to cover, but also you can generate quite a lot of cash by coming off Kane to Jesus if you're moving the funds around to get premium midfielders. So he fits the strategy of changing the formation around. Yeah, I like Jesus. And if he doesn't come in before 34 for me, I think I'll look to get him in for the run-in.
Question. So from 34 onwards, so 35, how comfortable are you with going without Kane looking at those last 4 fixtures, knowing that they'll push for top 4, and knowing he's quite good at the back end of the season.
I've always thought I'll keep Kane till 34, and that I'm coming down off him to enable Salah, and that's going to be my. And I haven't really thought about hanging on to him. I will have a look at your Solanke. I mean, if you were on the other week, we have to apologise. We were laughing about Solanke.
We have to apologise to
on this
Mikael
programme.
Paulson, who we didn't laugh at Mikael, but we laughed at the Solanke moved him.
And he has done very well, but I don't know. I don't want to lose Ollie Watkins either, but he's could probably have to go soon as well. You know, after 33.
Yeah.
So the strikers are performing at the moment, and when all 3 of your strikers are performing, the best thing to do is leave it alone. It's not to mess about with it. So I do think that come the last 4 games, if it's still tight with regards to the title, then bringing back Arsenal assets for the running. I mean, I've still got Saka, but I'd like to add at least another one more, and so. Yeah, it's more. Tottenham don't impress me at all, apart from Kane. You know, they're not playing very well, so it doesn't scare me that much. But he does always seem to come up with some points. So quite happy keeping him while it allows. But I think the 3+, if you call it that, you know, Salah, Fernandes, Kane, and Haaland. You know, you've got to have a pretty good team value to afford that. I'll look at it, but I don't think I could get there.
Yeah, it's just with Kane, like he's had a ridiculous season. Like to score 23 goals in a season by this point is ridiculous. I don't know how many won the Golden Boot last year, but I really don't think it was that many.
I think it would have been 22. That was the season before when. Oh no, it was the season before when Son and Salah shared it. I think, didn't they?
Yeah, but even last season. And I think it's just because of how well Haaland is doing. But yeah, Kane's been good.
Yeah,
it was a tough loss.
A few other players, Bowen, we've already mentioned. Looks.
How happy are you with Bowen, having owned him a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think I've been quite fortunate. I suppose he's playing this evening actually, which I haven't looked at the score yet. I think they've started. He has started this evening, which is a bit of a concern. But yeah, I mean, he's had 2 assists in 3 games for me, which for his price and considering. I would probably have gone Maddison if I was free hitted in 32. Again, one of those kind of quirks of the game, right? I've gone for the second best option. Yeah, it's come up trumps, which happens a lot, doesn't it? So I'm happy.
I think we've done really well.
Happy holding. Andreas, as we've mentioned already, and Alisson you chucked in as well, Rich. What's your thinking on Alisson?
Yeah, I just think again, if you're out of chips, then Alisson really the West Ham and the Liverpool players stick out because they play in game week 32 and double in game week 34. So they're very they're very good value assets to bring in because you're just getting 3 games across those 2 game weeks, whoever you choose. And so a lot of people are coming to the end of a run of fixtures for their goalkeeper combinations, and there's lots of talk of bringing Ederson in. Ederson's very popular, but he blanks in game week 32. And last time everyone got Ederson in, it was a bit of a disaster. He didn't keep any clean sheets. There wasn't much points return, and he's also 5.4 million. Alisson's a much cheaper way into Liverpool's defence. You're bringing him in for that Forest game potentially in game week 32, and then he doubles. And Liverpool's home, you've got 5 or 6 of the last 7 at home in the run-in. So not a bad shout. Again, with if you don't have any chips, all those transfers are kind of you're not going to transfer them back out again. You're either getting an enabler in to give you cash for more premiums, or you're bringing in a player for that run of 7-8 weeks, as a block.
Yeah, really good points there. Just have a look at the predicted points for the next 4 game weeks to give us some clues again if we're on the right track. So maybe check up a couple of names we haven't thought about. Salah obviously has the extra game over Haaland, but he's far and away. He's predicted 37
miles
points.
Out in front.
They've got some fantastic fixtures, haven't they? Is it Leeds, Forest? Can't remember 33, and then double in 34. So that's 5 games worth, and considering how he looked last week, I don't know if you saw. I had a text off a friend to say that Salah's XG last game week was 2.42, which is his highest XG in a single game since he's played for Liverpool. Which is absolutely, I know, which is absolutely insane. Considering it was Arsenal, who we thought were gonna not steamroll Liverpool, right? But we thought, it's not the kind of game you'd expect Salah to have that high in XG. You're very lucky, Jan, I must say, with stats like that. It's mega unfortunate, but he looked so dangerous. I still think he's on penalties as well. If he misses the target on another one, you start asking questions. But I just can't see him.
I think he's got one more chance. So he'll be off him if he misses another one. Klopp's going to have a word, isn't he? Imagine how that's going to go. Do you want to keep the penalties then? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Haaland is next, 26.7 points over the next few weeks, and then Kane. We've mentioned about Kane. Trent, Van Dijk and Robertson. So we haven't seen the Liverpool defenders this high up for quite a while, to your point earlier, Jan. We think they are going to turn a corner, and really score some serious points over this coming weeks. An interesting one which has popped up is Cody Gakpo at 7.6 million. It's obviously all down to expected minutes, right? Now that, Firmino's back, Jota's been playing. I think Luis Diaz is even back in training, and Nunes and stuff. Is at the moment it's going through Gakpo's historic minutes the last kind of 6 to 7 weeks where he's played lots of minutes. But I do think it could be an interesting one for free hitters in 32 and generally. You mentioned Alisson, Rich, in terms of a team that plays in 32, doubles in 34. He had a performance a few weeks ago, didn't he? I can't think. I think it's Man United, wasn't it, where he just looked absolutely superb. And if he turns up with his game like that again, he could be really good. So I do like Gakpo. He's a punt. He is a punt. Yeah, it's fair to say he's not one you think definitely bring in. But if you're looking for something a bit different, it's kind of Rich's point earlier, I think it could be good. Bruno is as well. Now, my take as well on Man United and players like Bruno is that I think that Rashford being out not only I think it impacts Man United's ability to score goals as a whole as well, right? Because Martial is okay, but he may score a goal or two, but he's not going to play 90 minutes. He can get his legs are made of quavers, so he's not going to be playing every 3 days or wherever else. So they're going to save him for Europa or right? And then you got Weghorst who can't, who's not even getting shots off them or anything else. And you've got Sancho, Garnacho, and players like that and Anthony, who, let's say, flattering to the sea from a pure attacking output. All fantastic players, right? But they're all still young and learning and stuff, right? So, Bruno would have to step up. I know he's on penalties. I know that Casemiro is back, but I'm still just not sure that United are going to have the firepower. Bearing in mind that even when Rashford was playing, United haven't scored many goals these last few weeks. They've only been scoring like a goal a game or even less. I think their average goals per game in the last 6 or 7 games definitely under 1.
But their chance creation in that Everton.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
Bruno's chance creation, playing from a deep position, was superb. I mean, he absolutely defied the positional responsibilities he had, and still created like 6 big chances. He was all over the game. So I'm not particularly worried. I think with Casemiro back, I get your point about we've just lost their main goal scorer for a few weeks. So I'm not expecting United to hand out any thrashings to people, but I think they'll still win games. And that Bruno now, Casemiro's back. You've got to give him till 34. I think really, if you've got him in to return.
Yeah.
Although I haven't written off losing him for Salah in 34 if he hasn't done anything between now and then. I will ditch him.
There are a few.
Are you talking about Bruno?
Yes, we were. Yeah. What's take on Bruno?
I heard the end of it just before I got kicked out. But I have a theory that it could actually be quite good for him, Rashford being out. We've seen in past times, like when Ronaldo's been in the squad, and like someone else has to be the talisman, or someone else is the talisman. That kind of takes away from his role. Like he's obviously been playing really deep. Everton was the best like vision of that, image of that. Like he was playing really deep and he was supporting the whole team. But with Rashford out, and you make a really good point about Weghorst, and Martial, look, you don't really know how many minutes you can get out of him. Anthony and Sancho, again, they haven't really been producing much. So I feel like the burden will almost go to Bruno, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see him start to rack up some more points. And with Casemiro back playing a more advanced role, because if it's not going to be him, then who else is it going to be?
Well, no one, and this is my point: is Rashford's their only. All right, there's kind of an argument to say about Bruno if he's he's kind of world class or not, right? But without Rashford, I just can't. I can't see how they're going to score. Like they weren't scoring many when Rashford was in the team. Is my point.
Okay, let's take last season for example, right? Or I think it was 2 seasons ago when Rashford was going through a really, really tough patch of form, and that's why his price was so low at the start of the season. It was Bruno who kind of just dictated everything and got all the goals and assists. And I really wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of turn up again, especially with Casemiro being back.
Fair enough. We're each it's good take. I'm just looking at the last few games and their chance creation has been good, but their goals scored, the tick in the column hasn't. So I just think there's better options, I suppose. I would even prefer triple Brighton mid and that, right? Rather than I just think, you look at it's easy, in kind of Rich's spot. Who haven't you got, Rich? Is it McAllister you haven't got?
I haven't. I'm a March Matoma combo.
I would rather have McAllister than Bruno. See, and other like Arsenal mids even. I just think they're just better. If you haven't got Martinelli and you've got Bruno, I just don't. I know it's tough when you've got Bruno in your team already. It's not. It's a hard switch over when you've got, when Bruno is doubling and Arsenal are not. But I'm just not convinced on Bruno. I suppose that's my point.
I think it's fair enough. It's definitely a placeholder for Salah.
Other interesting names in this list. Gundogan, you touched on him earlier, Jan. His minutes as well have been absolutely superb the last few weeks. He's popping up in really good positions as well, from kind of similar to where he was a few seasons ago when he went on that ridiculous scoring streak. So I really do like him. And Grealish is on the list as well. Darwin, we haven't really mentioned Darwin. He's such a frustrating own, isn't he? What are your thoughts on those sorts of players?
Yeah, so look, with Gundogan, I think he's got an eye for goal, and whilst he hasn't really been racking them up recently, we've seen him in the past that he really has got an eye for goal. His second man runs, and Pep's talked about this, are genuinely they're the best in the squad. They may even be some of the best in Europe. He's so good at it, and I think this year he's been vital essentially. He's been so good, and he's undroppable in my opinion. Whether he gets rotated is another thing, but I think he's pretty much undroppable. And I see him starting pretty much every game from now till the end of the season, unless he has to be rested. And he's always got points in him, so I quite like him. With Núñez, it's so tough because he does everything but put the ball in the back of the net. His movement is exceptional, and I'm sure he'll come good eventually. But what I reference is the chance against Arsenal when Salah slipped him through really, really nicely. I think a more prolific striker puts that away. It's such a big moment in the game. And Carragher made a really good point on commentary that you never really fancied him there. And that's kind of my issue with him. So for me, at his price and how we're thinking about 3-5-2 and the structures, I would probably avoid Núñez. But if you did want to punt, I think Gundogan is up there as a punt.
Do you know what? Darwin's XG over the last few weeks is 0.76 average per game, and he's also got an XA of 0.42 per game average. It's just absolutely insane. The only person really who's close, I'm just having a look at Kane's stats. It's better than Kane, far better than Kane. Like I say, the only one who challenged him really is Haaland on XG. Absolutely insane. He's there. He's another one. He's due.
I like Darwin for 34. I know the minutes aren't. He hasn't been starting games, but he could be. It's very explosive in game week 34. Darwin.
Yeah, it's these minutes again though.
On the free
this is minutes we're talking about Gakpo and Luis Diaz and Jota. It's a tough one, right? It is for sure.
Yeah, hard.
Let's have a look at the best captain for this week. I think last week it's fairly obvious, though. The Hub predictor does predict Harry Kane and Mo Salah to score more points than Haaland this week, interestingly. It really, really fancies Harry Kane at home to Bournemouth. Predicts 8.8 points. For Mo Salah, it predicts 7.8. Erling Haaland, 7.7 points. Bruno is in there. What does it know about Bruno? 7.1. Son and Kulusevski as well, obviously due to their superb fixture against Bournemouth. But in the polls on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, Erling Haaland 77% of the vote, Kane 12%. Incredibly hard to look past Haaland. Scored the two, brought off as expected. Scored midweek. He's going to score a couple of goals against Leicester. It's probably fair to say. Rich, thoughts on captaincy this week?
I wish I could captain them both. I mean, I've kept Kane. This is the reason I've kept him for this long. Really like him. If that Bayern Munich game was a bit tighter, like say that Bayern had, had the lead, for instance, you might see Pep resting Haaland, but I can't see him resting Haaland. He's going to start, isn't he, against Leicester, and you want him. You want him just for his consistency. It isn't really a difficult decision this week. I think if you haven't got both of those players, you should probably try and get them both at least to cover it, because they could both go off.
So for those who don't have him and who haven't got a free hit in 32, Jan,
I'd still hit him in. I just would say, look, I made a mistake not getting him.
Yeah,
I'll hit him in. He's that important. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at one of the comments we've had. I haven't heard this for a few years. Sean Williams says Nunes couldn't score in a brothel. I like that. Sorry, bit of a childish throwback to when he was a kid. Jan, thoughts on captaincy? Is it just Haaland all the way this week?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the Hub's AI tool has been so accurate and so good this season, especially when it's been those difficult weeks where it's had kind of the wild punts that people haven't expected. So it kind of scares me that Haaland's a third, but no, I will have that armband on him. I just think it's too big of a risk.
I think his EO is going to be ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised to see City score 5-6 against Leicester. He just looks so ridiculously good every time he plays. Against Bayern, he's just an absolute menace. So, but saying that, I think I'm going to go Haaland. But if you did want to go for a punt, I don't think this is a bad week for it. Salah against Leeds, Kane against Bournemouth. If you're going to get a little bit lucky, somehow Haaland blanks, and you could have a huge score in either of the other games.
I just can't see it. I do agree. I think that City are just going to absolutely batter Leicester into submission, 4-5-6-0, and this is the thing now with me not going for someone like Grealish. It's absolutely terrifying. How many times I used to have it with Sterling, because he was always very expensive, wasn't he? And
he was streaky,
and you couldn't afford Aguero and Sterling, or kind of wherever it was. But when Sterling cuts in from that left hand side on his right foot, it just, my heart was in my mouth the kind of whole match, because when City used to batter teams like that. And I kind of like that with Grealish now at the moment, when you don't own him and he just runs at defenders going into the box, you just think, oh my goodness. So for those who are bringing in Grealish, I think I know I said earlier I don't think he's the best option to bring in, maybe in the medium term, but for this week only, he could score some serious points, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, you get all the assists for Haaland's hat trick, won't he? So.
You will. Fergie is a punt for this week. I did go for Buendia last week, and they did win 2-0. He did play 77 minutes or something. He didn't return, sadly. I've been having a look for this week. I was thinking of Gakpo, but I did have the kind of ex-Mins thinking in my mind as well. So I was just trying to think outside the box a little bit, and it brought me to Liverpool's defence, which, the first half of last week, they were absolutely dreadful. I just think they're awful. I think Van Dijk, I'll take a lot of stick for this, but I just think he's so overrated. I think a couple of years ago he was absolutely superb, but at the moment, how can anyone argue he's the best defender in the world? It's absolutely beyond me.
If you're laughing at the defence, why do you think 80% of free hit drafts that I've seen so far have got Trent and Robertson in them for next week?
Well,
it's just crazy. It's just harping back to previous successes.
It is, but I would also say with those two, Robertson nearly scored against Arsenal last week. He dragged his shot wide.
I know.
Trent got the assist. Trent got the assist. So I kind of get it from the attacking view, but it just defense as a whole. Anyway, completely off topic. The point is, I was looking at Leeds players over the last 4 weeks, because I do think the Leeds will score. Is my is my point. And Harrison is by far and away their kind of most attacking threat. Expected goal involvement of 1.9 over the last few game weeks. So my punt for this week, I think Liverpool will probably win, kind of 2-1, or 3-1 or 3-2. But I do think Harrison's got a chance of some points this week. I was looking at Bamford as well. His minutes are back up. He started the last 4 games now. And he could be dangerous, but yeah, I think Harrison looks a good punt for the next few game weeks. Let's just have a quick talk about Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League mini league. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below. In addition to your standard free cards, you'll get a free limited card, but only if you click on the link in the description below. We're also now giving away weekly prizes, such as limited cards as well, Premier League ones. Jump on, have a go, see what it's all about. It's absolutely free. The very, very best of luck. And don't forget, the overall winner gets a pair of Premier League tickets. So go ahead and join it. It's really, really good fun there. Let's have a look at our teams for the coming game week then. Rich, I got your team up first. What is going to be your transfer and captaincy plans this coming week?
Okay, genuinely haven't made my mind up yet on the transfer. Probably 70% likely to sell Rashford for Grealish. That's all I can say at the moment. I want tonight's United team news. I want to see how they get on, how they play. Bruno doesn't get injured, etc. Hopefully get some team news on Shaw and others tomorrow. I'd like to hear whether or not Chelsea correspondents think that Chilwell's going to start, as I have got that Brighton third defender issue, or that third Brighton player to bring in. Could bring the keeper in, could bring Dunk in, could even bring, we keep mentioning Ferguson every week, but if Ferguson keeps playing, he could be my lever off Kane. So lots of options to happen. But for this week, likely to do Grealish, but may bench Rashford and just wait for another week's worth of information and just make an extra sort of doubling transfer for 34, which is a bit dull, but that's where I am at
the winning formula, Rich. You always say that. You always say, I might do this, but I might wait for an extra week's bit of information, and that is successful fantasy football play. So take heed, everybody. Jian, what's your plan for the week?
Selling Tony and Watkins. I would definitely bring in Haaland. Then if I get Solanke, I'll either get Solanke or Greenwood. It kind of depends on how much money I want to leave there. But I'm pretty sure I'll go Solanke, and I'll probably bench him this week, but I'm still going to buy him for 33.
Okay, for 33. I don't know.
I'm playing 4-4-2. 4-4-2, double Brentford defense.
Why do you just go for Greenwood then?
Because I can play Solanke in 33.
Well, I don't know about that, mate. I don't like that. I know you can save yourself over $1 million.
1.5 million, isn't it? It's Greenwood 4 million. Is he?
I prefer. I can play him in 33, and I can play him down the line as well. So I'm comfortable with it.
As long as you are, mate. No, I'm only messing. In terms of my team, I think I'm going to go Rashford. So I'm going to convince myself that he's not going to play in 34. Obviously, because it suits me, and that's the narrative that I want to spin for myself. So I think that I'm going to go. I think Rashford to Martinelli. Obviously, looking at this week, looking at 32 as well. I think it could be quite a nice differential almost, Martinelli this week against engaged managers, because obviously Grealish is the obvious move. But not many managers will have Grealish. Martinelli, as I mentioned earlier, 31 and 33. So quite like that. I'm saying that now. Grealish, Mahrez didn't play midweek, and Bernardo scored. I'm not sure who starts the weekend. I think Mahrez, but they could be really sensational 1 week options as well, right? But I think that's going to be my move with my free transfer. I've only got 0.1 in the bank, so I can't be too creative. But at the moment, my back three is Trippier, Botman, and Henry, which doesn't really fill me with a lot of hope, because I do think that Villa will probably score against Newcastle. I actually think Henry has probably got a better chance of a clean sheet than Newcastle this week, away to Wolves, and the Hub predictor agrees with me. They predict him a few more points. Chilwell, I'm just not sure, but I think even if he does play, I think Brighton score. So you're kind of I think you're relying on attacking returns there, and I've got Shaw still. Probably going to leave him. His flag is still amber. He may be back next week, maybe not, but I'll just leave him. So
I think he's definitely going to be back the other side of Gameweek 32. I think I think he'll be okay.
Same.
Probably a hold given the doubles.
So I could do Chilwell to someone for a hit, and the kind of teams we're looking at for myself who haven't got the free hit. You mentioned earlier teams like West Ham and Liverpool. I can't afford to get to anyone like Trent or Robertson. I could go. I'm not sure how much Konate is or someone like that, or I could go for West Ham defender potentially, or maybe a Palace player. Players like that need to.
You haven't got your 3 Brighton either, have you? Yeah,
I haven't yet. No, but I think I'd want Mitoma, which is why I'm holding off.
You're going to go triple up in midfield?
I think so. They just look so dangerous. They just look so good. They look sensational, and I think March looks sensational. I think McAllister does. I think McAllister's been a little bit unfortunate, actually. But Mitoma has looked equally as good, if not better. And I don't have him yet. So I would much prefer... as much as Brighton are good and they are okay defensively, I just think that, over long term, I would love to have those 3 mids in place for that run towards the end of the season, because I just see goals and points everywhere I look. And what I don't want is Brighton to win 3-1, Mitoma to get the 2 goals and my boys get the assists or something. It just doesn't really think. Whereas I think that Brighton could really finish the season well, and just be all over the point. So I'm going to hold off and get Mitoma in as well, I think, in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, kind of happy. Haven't really thought much past Gameweek 32 or 33 yet. So like I say, I'm hoping to take some short-term points, and then if I have to take some hits to sort out my team for 34 onwards, I'm more than happy to do that. But what I don't want to do is screw my team up now, not take points that are in front of me, and then still have to potentially use hits anyway. So yeah, that is me at the moment. We've got some devastating news. Absolutely devastating news, which is going to be devastating for everyone who watches every single week. So I've put up the competition for Game Week 31, but our supplier are not able to supply us with any more Fantasy Football Hub mugs. So we're not going to be having any more for this season, which I know. Calm down, everyone. Calm down, everyone. Absolutely devastating news. We will obviously look to either get some kind of alternative prize as quickly as possible, or an alternative supplier for the mugs. But at the moment, everyone's going to have to look over Rich's shoulder, who hasn't got one, and just look at his mug, really. So we'll still hold the competition. Last week, the top scorers were joint AU and Olise, who we mentioned earlier, 14 each. So fortunately, there were no winners anyway. But for the competition, I'm gonna have to think of a prize. Maybe a Hub membership could be what we can give away this week. So Fantasy Football Hub membership for a year for whoever gets this right. But for a chance to win a Fantasy Football Hub membership, you need to like this video, make sure you are subscribed, and then comment on be the top point scorer in Game Week 31. Jian, who do you think is going to be the top scorer this week?
I'll go Bruno because you didn't like it. And last time I did this with Martinelli, you gave me the same reaction.
That's fair. Rich, who do you think?
Oh gosh, I'll go for Mahrez, something like that.
He was going to be my pick. I'll go for Gundogan. I think that I think all those picks this week are really, really good. Russell Baker says teabag. I don't know if he means that should be a prize or he's calling me a teabag. And Mahmood says no more mugs, unsubscribing, laughy face. Mikhail says no, and John says Fergie, you mug. Absolutely. So we do apologise for this. We will try and sort it out. I only had the news this morning, so I haven't really been able to sort it out yet. But yeah.
Well, they had stuck on a container ship in the Suez Canal, are they, or something, Fergie? I don't know.
Unbelievable, mate. Honestly, I can't believe it. And the handle is. I've had mine for like 4 years, and the handle broke off mine last week as well. So I do need a new one. But yeah, we will source them, and we will be back definitely, hopefully this season, but definitely next season with a new supplier. So don't unsubscribe, because we will definitely have some merch back. And that is it for us this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. For those who watch it back and those listening on the podcast versions, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. And just a reminder, our My Team feature that shares your personalised, recommended, most optimal transfer every week, specifically for your team using artificial intelligence, is now live on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk and is free for 7 days for all to use. Give it a go. It is absolutely brilliant. My recommended transfer this week, who was it? I think it was Martinelli, actually. But if you go onto My Team, click on recommended transfer. You can also input your chip strategy that you're playing. It will take that into account when making your moves as well. Members also get access to Ben Krellin's exclusive planner, the best 2 FPL tools combined, free for 7 days. We have double game week guides, best wildcard teams, best free hit teams for next season, everything you can possibly want to do well and win at fantasy football at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. So make sure you go and check it out. We also have a Discord server now. The link is in the description, and this link works. Apparently the link that's been in there the last few weeks hasn't worked, so if you haven't joined it, please make sure you join our Discord, chat FPL. We've got hundreds and hundreds of people here chatting FPL all day, every day. We also chat the other games, Sky Games, Telegraph, Dream Team, everything else as well. So everything you need to do well at fantasy football. And the Discord is absolutely free. Relic Return says Black Market Mugs, and John Shanley says FFH Spoon. We're coming up with some other ideas here, but yeah, we'll definitely run a free membership for this week for the year. Jian, thank you so much for joining us this week. Absolutely fantastic. Pleasure. As usual. Where can people find you, buddy?
On Twitter at FPL_Jian Batra.
And don't forget to look for Jian's weekly sort of preview tweet. Absolutely brilliant. Answers all the questions for the week. Superb. Rich, where can people find you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
And don't forget, you can get Rich's team reveal exclusively if you're a Fantasy Football Hub member every kind of Friday evening, Saturday morning when he's made his change. You can do it all season. He will tell you exactly what move he is making. One of, if not the best, fantasy football manager of all time, giving you everything you need every single week. My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergi. And this podcast video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We'll be back next week. I think Adam is back next week from holiday. Looking ahead to blank game week 32. It's going to be a good one next week.
Free hit edition.
Free hits special edition. We will have the Hub AI free hit team as well, which we will share with you next week. In the meantime, the very, very best of luck for Game Week 31, and may all your arrows be green. Good night all.